It's 3 o'clock in the morning. The house is silent. The world outside your window is dark and still. But you're awake, again. Not just once, not just last night, but over and over, night after night. You look at the clock, hoping maybe it's closer to morning. But it's not. It's always 3 o'clock, or 3:12, or 3:30. The time changes, but the pattern is the same. And you start to wonder, why does this keep happening? Why can't I stay asleep like I used to? And more importantly, what does it mean? Is it just age? Is it stress? Is it something your doctor forgot to mention? Or is it something deeper, something your body, your brain, or your soul is trying to say? This video is about that hour, the 3 a.m. hour, the hour where too many older adults find themselves awake, not because they want to be, but because something won't let them rest. And before we go any further, let me say this clearly. If you've been waking up at 3 a.m. consistently, you are not alone, and you are not imagining it. There's a reason it's happening. More than one, actually. And once you understand those reasons, not just the surface-level explanations, but the deeper truths, you may finally be able to change the pattern, protect your health, and bring peace back to your nights. Before we dive in, let me ask you to do something important right now. Subscribe to this channel, because each week we bring honest, often unspoken truths about aging, health, and emotional well-being. No sugarcoating, no empty tips, just real talk for real people living through the most sacred and often the most misunderstood phase of life. And if you've ever looked at the clock at 3 a.m. and asked, what's wrong with me? Like this video now, because chances are someone else out there is asking the same question, and they need to know they're not the only one awake in the dark. Let me ask you something, and think about it honestly. When was the last time you slept through the night without interruption? Not just a nap, not just drifting in and out, but real, uninterrupted sleep from evening until sunrise? If you can't remember, or if it only happens once in a while, this video is for you. Because here's what most people don't tell you. Waking up at 3 a.m. is common after 60, but it's not normal, and it's not something you should ignore. It may be a signal from your body. It may be a sign from your nervous system. It may even be a symptom of something much deeper than sleep. In the next few minutes, we're going to explore what science, medicine, and even ancient tradition have to say about why older adults wake up at this exact time, and what it reveals about your physical health, your mental state, and your spiritual life. We'll talk about the role of cortisol, the stress hormone that spikes in the early morning hours. We'll talk about changes in liver function, blood sugar, and circadian rhythms that shift with age. We'll talk about grief, regret, and how the mind often chooses the quietest hours of the night to finally speak what the day keeps silenced. And more importantly, we'll talk about what you can do about it, not just to fall back asleep, but to heal what may be waking you in the first place. So if you're ready to finally understand why you keep waking at 3 a.m., and if you're open to hearing truths that go deeper than just melatonin and meditation, stay with me. Because what's been disrupting your sleep might also be the very thing disrupting your life. Let's begin. It happens like clockwork. You go to bed feeling tired, maybe even exhausted. But by 3 a.m., your eyes open, your chest feels tight, your heart might be beating just a little faster than it should. You're alert, restless, confused. And you wonder, what just happened? Why am I wide awake in the middle of the night? Here's one answer, and it's one of the most important for older adults to understand. Your cortisol levels may be spiking too early. Cortisol is a hormone your body naturally produces. It's often called the stress hormone, but it's also deeply tied to your sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm. Under healthy conditions, your cortisol levels are lowest around midnight and gradually rise in the early morning, helping you wake up feeling refreshed and alert. But if those levels start to rise too early, say, around 3 a.m., your body can be jolted into wakefulness before it's truly ready. And once you're up, it becomes almost impossible to fall back asleep. Let's talk about why this happens more after 60. As you age, several things shift in your internal systems. Your circadian rhythm weakens. The part of your brain that regulates the sleep-wake cycle, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, becomes less responsive, especially to light cues. That means your body becomes more prone to mistiming the release of hormones like cortisol. You're more sensitive to stress. Emotional and physical stressors, even mild ones, can trigger early cortisol release. And the older you get, the harder it becomes to recover from daily stress. Your blood sugar regulation declines. Low blood sugar during sleep can trigger a stress response, prompting cortisol to spike to protect you, even if you don't feel hungry. You may be on medications that unintentionally affect hormone balance. Certain prescriptions, especially steroids, thyroid medications, or even some sleep aids, can interfere with normal cortisol production. So what does it feel like when cortisol spikes at 3 a.m.? You might wake up suddenly with no noise or disturbance. You might feel anxious, wired, or agitated, even if there's no real reason. Your thoughts might start racing. You might sweat, feel warm, or feel like your mind is on, even if your body still feels tired. And here's the deeper truth. Waking up with elevated cortisol night after night slowly drains your reserves. It erodes your energy during the day. It affects memory. It raises your blood pressure. And it keeps your nervous system stuck in a state of overdrive. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt more alert at 3 a.m. than you do at 7 a.m.? Have you noticed your mornings starting with tension instead of calm? Have you found yourself snapping at small things, forgetting words, or feeling tired no matter how early you go to bed? Those may all be signs that your cortisol pattern is off. And if it is, your body is waking you up for survival. It thinks something's wrong, even if you're lying in a quiet room. But here's the good news. You can retrain your cortisol rhythm. Not overnight, but with awareness, small changes, and consistency, you can begin to teach your body when to be alert and when to let go. Here's what you can begin doing today. Get early morning sunlight. Within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, go outside. Even just 10 minutes of natural light helps re-anchor your internal clock. Avoid screens and bright light 2 hours before bed. Blue light from phones and TVs tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime. Eat a small protein-based snack in the evening. For some, this helps stabilize blood sugar overnight, which prevents cortisol spikes from hypoglycemia. Practice gentle, consistent wind-down routines. Your body needs repeated cues that it's time to shift out of fight or flight. Talk to your doctor about cortisol-disruptive medications. Some prescriptions can, unintentionally, shift your rhythm. Ask if any adjustments could help. And most importantly, don't ignore your 3 a.m. awakenings. They are not random. They are not just part of getting old. They are a signal. If this sounds like your pattern, if you felt your eyes snap open and your chest tighten before dawn, leave a comment below with the words, "I wake up with tension," because your body might be trying to tell you something your mind is too tired to notice during the day. And if this helped connect dots you've been struggling with, like the video now, that click helps this reach more seniors who are quietly waking up at 3 a.m., wondering what's wrong, and blaming themselves for what they don't understand. And subscribe if you haven't yet, because in the next section, we're going to talk about a very different cause of nighttime waking, one that isn't in your hormones, but in your heart. And for some of you, this might be the real reason you haven't been able to rest. Stay with me. It gets deeper from here. It's 3 a.m. The house is dark. Your body is still. But your mind, your heart, your soul, they're not quiet. You're thinking about the conversation you never had, the person you lost, the thing you didn't say, the version of yourself you used to be. And the longer you lie there, the louder it all becomes. If that sounds familiar, then let me tell you something you may have never heard. Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't always about hormones. Sometimes it's your grief. Not the kind you cry about in front of others. Not the grief that people notice or ask you about, but the quiet kind. The kind that's been building in your chest for months or years, even decades. Because here's what most doctors won't say. Grief doesn't operate on a calendar. and it doesn't sleep when you do. In fact, it often waits until your guard is down, when the distractions of the day are gone, when your mind has no more tasks to manage, when your body is at rest. That's when grief speaks. It might sound like a memory. It might feel like a knot in your chest. It might rise up as anxiety, sadness, or restlessness, and you won't always know why. You just know you can't fall back asleep, because something in you is unresolved. Let me ask you a question that most people are too afraid to ask. Who or what do you still carry silently into every night? Is it a loved one who passed and was never truly grieved? A choice you made that you still wonder about? A life you thought you'd have and didn't? A wound that never got the apology it deserved? Because the body remembers what the mind avoids, and at 3 a.m., when everything is still, your emotions begin to surface. There's actually a biological reason for this. When your cortisol starts to rise in the early morning, your brain becomes more active. But if what rises with it is emotional unrest, your thoughts spiral, not toward planning, but toward pain. And if you never let those emotions be felt, expressed, or understood, they don't disappear. They show up as sleep disruption, elevated heart rate, shallow breath, and restlessness. They keep you trapped in half sleep, not fully awake, but never fully at peace. And this is especially true for older adults. Because after 60, your grief doesn't shrink. It expands. You've lost more people. You've had more time to reflect. You're living with more memories, more silence, and sometimes more regret. And in the dark hours, those things come forward. So what can you do? Not to erase grief, but to meet it, to stop fearing that 3 a.m. moment, and instead, create space for what your heart has been holding. Try this. When you wake up, sit up slowly. Don't reach for your phone. Don't turn on the TV. Just breathe. Let your body know that you're not in danger. Whisper the name of who or what you miss. Just the name. Just once. It matters. Keep a journal beside your bed. Write down a sentence, not a paragraph. Just what your heart is holding, even if it doesn't make sense. Pray, or speak aloud, or simply say, I hear you. Not to someone else, to yourself. If tears come, let them. That's not weakness. That's healing your nervous system from the inside out. Because what's waking you at 3 a.m. might not be your body. It might be your soul, asking for permission to finally be felt. And if this part of the video feels more like a mirror than a message, if you've been waking up not with racing thoughts, but with an ache in your chest that you can't explain, leave a comment with the words, I'm still carrying something. Because someone else reading those words might finally feel safe enough to admit that they are too. And if you're crying right now, or remembering someone you haven't said their name aloud in years, like the video, not for me, but because your honesty helps this reach others who are crying silently in the dark, wondering if they're the only ones. And subscribe, because this isn't just a channel about sleep. It's a space for the truth behind why so many older adults can't rest. And next, we'll explore a reason that many dismiss too easily, but it may be the most important physical clue of all. Your liver, your blood sugar, and your brain chemistry, all shifting in the quiet hours of the night. We're not done. Stay with me. The 3 a.m. mystery goes deeper. There's a hidden rhythm inside your body, a rhythm that doesn't care what time the clock says. It's the cycle of blood sugar, organ function, and internal repair. And after 60, it starts changing in ways most people never see coming. So if you keep waking at 3 a.m., let me offer another possibility. Your body isn't betraying you. It's protecting you. Let's start with a fact that often surprises people. Your liver does most of its detoxifying work between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. That's not folklore. That's physiology. And if your liver is under stress from medications, alcohol, processed food, or simply age-related decline, it may not handle its overnight tasks as efficiently. As a result, your body may release stress hormones like adrenaline or cortisol to stimulate the liver and keep essential systems running. That means your eyes snap open, your heart rate rises, your breath quickens, and suddenly you're awake. but it gets more complex than that. Blood sugar also plays a role. As you sleep, your body still needs energy, especially your brain. In younger adults, glucose regulation remains stable through the night. But after 60 or 70, that regulation becomes fragile. If your blood sugar dips too low in the early morning hours, whether from poor meal timing, medication imbalances, or insulin resistance, your body panics. It interprets the drop as a threat, and to correct it, it releases adrenaline and cortisol to raise your blood sugar again, which wakes you up, suddenly, abruptly, sometimes with anxiety, sweating, or a feeling of dread you can't quite explain. And then you lie there, not realizing your body just saved you from hypoglycemia. This is especially common if you skip dinner or eat very early. You eat a high-carb, low-protein evening meal. You drink alcohol before bed. You take diabetes medications that lower blood sugar during the night. You go to bed hungry, thinking it's healthier to fast. It might not cause issues in your 40s or 50s, but after 60, these routines can cause silent glucose drops that jolt your nervous system awake, right around 3 a.m. And again, your body isn't doing this to annoy you. It's trying to survive. So what can you do? Let me offer a few practical, science-backed steps that may help. Avoid going to bed on an empty stomach. A small, balanced snack, like a spoonful of nut butter, a hard-boiled egg, or a slice of turkey, can help stabilize your blood sugar through the night. Cut back on sugar and refined carbs at dinner. The blood sugar spike crash cycle is real, and it doesn't care what decade you're in. Watch your alcohol intake. A drink at dinner may feel relaxing, but it can interfere with liver function and glucose balance, especially overnight. Talk to your doctor about your medications, especially if you're on insulin or diabetes pills. Nighttime dosing may need to be adjusted with age. Hydrate, but not excessively, in the hours before bed. Dehydration can make blood sugar fluctuations worse. And most importantly, stop assuming that waking up in the middle of the night is just something old people do. It's not. It's a signal. And when your body is waking you, again and again, it's trying to keep you alive. Let me ask you something plainly. Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. feeling shaky, lightheaded, a little confused, or flushed, or just off? Have you ever felt like your heart was racing, but your room was perfectly still? If so, your blood sugar may have dipped below where it should have been, and your body did exactly what it needed to bring you back to safety. So don't blame yourself for waking, but do take it seriously, and adjust how you care for your body before bedtime, not after 3 a.m. If this sounded like what you've been feeling, if this finally explained the nights you've quietly wondered about, leave a comment below with the words, "My body is waking to protect me," because naming it is the first step to healing it. And if this message gave you clarity, gave you peace, or gave you direction, like the video now, that one small gesture helps this reach someone who's been blaming themselves for what's actually a deeply intelligent signal from their body. And subscribe if you haven't yet, because what we're uncovering in this video, in this community, are truths that most people never get to hear. In the next section, we're going to talk about something few expect, the spiritual significance of the 3 a.m. hour. What ancient wisdom, religious tradition, and psychology say about waking at this sacred time, and why it may be less about disturbance and more about invitation. Stay with me, because sometimes being awake at 3 a.m. isn't a problem. It's a calling. There's something about 3 a.m. that has always carried weight. Across cultures, across centuries, long before alarm clocks or sleep studies, people noticed, this hour feels different. It's when the monks rise for prayer. It's when the mystics say the veil between worlds grows thin. It's when dreams deepen. And it's when many of us, especially in our later years, find ourselves wide awake for no reason at all. But maybe there is a reason. Maybe what you're experiencing isn't just biological. Maybe it's spiritual. Now, before you click away, thinking this part isn't scientific enough, I invite you to consider something. What if being awake at 3 a.m. isn't a disturbance? What if it's a calling? not from outside you, but from within. Because when else does the world go silent? When else are the distractions all gone? When else do you hear your own thoughts so clearly? Your fears, your memories, your questions. For many elders, waking at 3 a.m. is when truth starts to whisper. It's when you remember what you forgot in daylight. It's when you feel the weight of things you never resolved, not to be punished, but to be freed. In ancient Chinese medicine, 3 a.m. is connected to the lung meridian, the part of your energy system tied to grief, sorrow, and the breath of life. And what does grief ask for, more than anything else? To be seen, to be felt, to be released. In many Christian monastic traditions, 3 a.m. is called the hour of divine mercy. It's when the soul is said to be most open to grace, to prayer, to transformation. And in the quiet of that hour, no phone buzzing, no television, no one else needing you, you finally meet yourself. Sometimes for the first time in years. Let me ask you something sacred. Have you ever woken up at 3 a.m. and felt like something was trying to speak through the silence? Not a sound, not a voice, but a knowing, a gentle pressure in your chest, a name, a truth, a question you've been avoiding for decades. This may be the moment when the past knocks, not to haunt you, but to say, you still have time, to make peace, to soften your regrets, to forgive someone, to forgive yourself. Because the night does not only belong to worry, it also belongs to clarity. And as we grow older, as our days become quieter, as our circle shrinks, as our years feel shorter, the sacredness of 3 a.m. becomes louder. It's the hour when we stop pretending, when we stop distracting, when we finally ask, what matters now? Who do I need to become before I go? And what part of me is still unfinished? So the next time you wake up at 3 a.m., don't reach for your phone. Don't turn on the TV. Don't try to run from the silence. Sit with it. Ask what it wants to teach you. And listen. You might be surprised at what you hear. Because yes, waking at 3 a.m. might be hormonal. It might be emotional. It might be physical. But sometimes it's something else. A moment between you and the deeper parts of yourself. A space not for sleep, but for awakening. If this part of the video resonated with your soul, if it gave shape to something you felt but couldn't explain, leave a comment that says, I'm learning to listen at 3 a.m. And if you've ever woken up in the dark and felt like something sacred was unfolding, even if you didn't understand it, like the video now. Because the more we share these quiet truths, the less alone others will feel when they open their eyes at 3:17 a.m., wondering if they're the only one. And subscribe, because this space is for your inner life, too. Not just your habits, not just your health, but the unseen parts of you that still want to be witnessed. In the final part of this video, we'll bring all of this together. What it means to honor the 3 a.m. wake up, not as a problem to fix, but as a message to interpret, and how to begin sleeping and living with more intention than ever before. You've made it this far. Let's finish in the light. You've made it through this journey. And now, maybe 3 a.m. doesn't feel quite so confusing. Maybe it even feels important. Because now you understand. Waking up in the middle of the night isn't just about insomnia. It's your body, your mind, and your spirit trying to speak. Sometimes, it's cortisol, spiking too early, pushing your system into alertness when it should still be resting. Sometimes, it's unspoken grief, rising from the silence of your soul, finally ready to be felt. Sometimes, it's a drop in blood sugar, a shift in liver function, your body ringing the internal alarm bell to keep you safe. And sometimes, it's something deeper, a sacred hour, a moment of reckoning, reflection, and return. But no matter the cause, the question remains. What will you do with this knowledge? Because now, you can't unknow what you've heard. You can't pretend the 3 a.m. wake-up is random. You can't keep brushing it off as just old age. And you certainly can't afford to ignore the ways your nightly routine, your emotional state, or your physical health are contributing to this pattern. You have a choice. Not a perfect solution, not a magic fix, but a choice. To meet your body with compassion, to care for your sleep like it matters, because it does, to slow down your evenings, stabilize your blood sugar, review your medications, and prepare for bed like your life depends on it, because at this stage, it just might. To meet your emotions, the ones you've buried, with honesty, to journal, to pray, to say the names you've kept locked inside, and to treat 3 a.m. not as a punishment, but as a portal, a threshold, a doorway into something more truthful than the noise of the day ever allows. So tonight, when you wake, and you might, try this. Don't panic. Don't reach for a screen. Don't fight it. Instead, breathe. Whisper a name. Say, I'm here. Say, I'm listening. And ask, gently, what are you trying to show me? That one question might change the way you experience the night forever. Let me ask you now, from one soul to another. What has 3 a.m. been trying to tell you? And are you finally ready to listen? If this video spoke to something you've been holding for years, quietly, privately, without words, I invite you to comment below with, I'm beginning to understand the night. Because your comment might be the sign someone else has been waiting for. And if this message brought you peace, clarity, or even a few tears, like the video now, not for the algorithm, but for the thousands of older adults who are waking in the dark, feeling afraid, and blaming themselves for what's actually very human, very common, and very real. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Because here, we don't just talk about symptoms. We talk about truth, about aging with awareness, about sleep, yes, but also about grief, memory, purpose, and peace. This isn't just a channel. It's a quiet place for people like you to come home to yourself. So tonight, when 3 a.m. comes again, let it come, but let it come with wisdom, with preparation, and most of all, with presence. You're not broken. You're not failing. You're simply awake to something deeper. And that is a kind of awakening worth honoring. Sleep well, and when you rise, rise gently, because your story is still unfolding, even in the dark.